is the PFL Preview Show.
Mike Pendleton here on site, on location, literally backstage at the hotel where fighters will be coming in and cutting weight, checking their weight cuts alongside the man, the myth, the legend, Dan Hardy. Dan, we've done these virtually, remotely, now in person here in San Diego. What a card we have. What a week it's been in the PFL.
Yeah, it's been good, man. It's good to have you in person as well here. You know, we always do these remote. It's always a lot of fun, but this is a good card. There's a lot of good matchups on it. And obviously, you know, we just announced the Summer Series as well. So we've got a whole string of events that are coming up, and it's going to be a busy summer for the PFL.
It is, I believe, 6 events in 8 weeks. Yeah. I don't want to bury the lead, so I want to start with Summer Series.
Sure.
But I may have been told some inside info. Are you staying in the States and then driving to each event? Is this a cross-country road trip for you?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I am. I like a road trip. I do. When we did 3 shows back-to-back last year. I think we did Nashville, Wichita, and Chicago. And I road trip between them as well. I see more of the country. I meet more people. I go to places that I would just never pass through because I'm flying over in a plane. You know, just cool little place like Paducah, Kentucky. I would have never gone there, but I had a lovely time, met some really cool people. And so, yeah, my road trip is planned already. So I'll be flying into DC and then driving Elmont, then Charlotte, and then down to Tampa. And I have lots of friends on the East Coast as well, so I'll call into Manhattan and see the Henzo crew, and I'll probably call into the PFL head offices in Union Square. And then just as I travel down the East Coast, I want to go and see Liz Carmouche's gym and take Veronica there to train and probably get a couple of tattoos while I'm on the East Coast. And then we're ended up in Florida. Yeah, and then the Tampa event, 22nd of August, is going to be awesome. I mean, I've got family in Florida that are on Veronica's side of the family, so we'll be seeing them as well. But just excited for the year, man. And you know, to like kind of close the summer out with a Cyborg fight in Tampa. You know, Caitlin Vera, I think, is a really, really good opponent for her as well. I think we could be in for a couple of surprises. It could be quite a tough fight for Cyborg. But yeah, and then after that, we kind of slow down a little bit, don't we? And then we're into like regular pacing again. But I like this summer series. I like the fact that it's, you know, 1 week after the next, and title fights. We need to get belts around people's waists.
That is a big thing, and we are going to see. I think we should have a belt on the line this weekend. But going back very quickly for everyone watching, we did hear I'm not going to be allowed to be in his trunk. I can't go on the road trip. There's no. It's all right. It's fine. It's fine. But we obviously have the Long Island card, which I absolutely love. The reportedly retirement fight of Cris Cyborg, and that's one thing I wanted to get your thoughts on, having been inside, competition for as long as you were. She's talked to the media and made it appear like I'm going to keep my options open, but I do want to live my life. But if boxing were to call, I'd probably answer the phone before MMA. Can you kind of just take me through and not speak on her behalf, but like in that mindset of a fighter of how you adjust towards those later stages of your career?
Look, it's very difficult, especially, you know, when you're someone like Cyborg who's been doing it for, you know, over 2 decades. It's so much a part of your lifestyle that every day you wake up and it's prioritized. So for her to, and that's why when the press conference was on yesterday, I asked her about it being her last fight and whether she's thinking about it. Because even though in the back of her mind she might know, yes, this is my last MMA fight, she might not want to accept that fact before the fight's actually happened. Especially, you know, if she picks up a loss, she's going to want to rematch Caitlin Vera, no doubt about it. So I do like the fact that she's keeping her options open regarding that, because it means that she's not just stepping in there to fight regardless of the result. You know, she wants to go out on a win. But I also think that, you know, she can have a lot of success in boxing. She doesn't have to work quite as hard to be a boxer as she does to be an MMA fighter. And I think the competition right now for her in MMA is probably, stiffer than it is in boxing. So, you know, to keep her options open and have a couple of boxing matches, I don't think it's a bad idea. I'm just glad that she's not completely writing off a future MMA fight, because you just never know what's going to happen in this upcoming one, you know. And if she picks up a loss, she's definitely going to want to fight again.
When we look at the entire summer series, and I don't want to look past Usman and Dakota being on the card in Long Island, but you saw them at the press conference. You handled them at the press conference. Dalton Ross, the Bryan battle. I've never, and this is one of the things I love about this company, you can have guys coming off a loss from the same night in Pittsburgh and build them together in Charlotte in Bryan Battle's backyard. And not only are they a technical great matchup, but they're going to be, I mean, they're going to sell the shit out of this card. It is going to be incredible, the lead up to it. You kind of like the thought process behind the PFL and going, we're not going to just let a fighter stay down mentally or on their resume. Okay, we've got two fighters coming off a loss in a main event. That's still a very, very high level key matchup for the division.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're both still ranked in the top 10. You know, we've got ranked number 4 against number 8. And I think it might feel a little bit different as well if Eblen had kept his belt, because then it would feel like there's one guy at the top of the division that's just dominating and holding everybody down underneath him. Whereas since Costello came in and took the belt off Eblen, it feels to me like it's opened the division right up. And you know, Brian Battle coming in and making his debut against Johnny Eblen was just a rough test, a rough ask for anybody. You know, just to find your feet in the cage and to get used to the shape of the gloves is one thing. And then you fight Johnny Eblen, who's coming off the first loss of his career. Like, there was no way that was going to be a good night for Brian Battle unless he'd spent how many years wrestling. You know, it was just, that was on the cards for him that night. And it was unfortunate. I appreciated his energy coming into that fight week, but against Johnny Eblen, I mean, you're just going to have a horrendous night if you can't stop that body lock. And then on the other side, Dalton, and he said this at the press conference yesterday, every single fight he's in is exciting. And I agree with him. He's a very, very exciting fighter to watch. I felt like he was way more timid against Fabian Edwards than he needed to be, and that could have potentially cost him a better performance. And against Impa, it was just a roll of the dice. And I actually think he came out of the Impa loss better, because it was like, you know, it happens.
These things happen in MMA.
I rolled the dice. Yeah, it was less attached to that loss. So I actually think that this version of Dalton's going to be better as well, just like the loss that Eblen had, that, for me, leveled him up. And you know, in this fight, you've got obviously Brian Battle, who's, in my mind, the underdog technically and physically, but has the advantage being it being his hometown. And then Dalton on the other side had a horrible experience in his hometown after a great walkout. Now knows that pressure's on Brian Battle, and he doesn't have to carry that pressure himself. So I think there are a lot of different dynamics working into this fight that make it interesting. And like I said, you know, they're both right inside the top 10, and the division's wide open. You know, like, either of these guys with a win, they could be taking on, you know, the loser of the Eblen Kasanganay fight, or you know, obviously Costello's there holding the belt, but everybody else is kind of tied up aside from the winner of the July 18th event. So it's just a good opportunity for these guys to make a name for themselves. And the fact that they're the main event as well draws more eyes, which raises their game, raises their intensity. And I think we get better versions out of both of them for it. And I'll say Charlotte, North Carolina, I love the place.
It's amazing. I was there last year. And you really don't think of Charlotte as a hotbed for MMA.
Yeah.
They come out in full force. I mean, and there wasn't even, like, you know, there was no Brian Battles on the card for that one.
Yeah.
So I cannot imagine what the Bojangles Coliseum, I believe, is going to be like in August. But all the fights, we've got Impa and Johnny Eblen. We've got Dakota Ditcheva finally back inside the cage. And then we have, obviously, Usman Nurmagomedov, Archie Colgan. What fight, and I know this is like the cherry pick question I always ask you, but across all the Summer Series big fights that we have, which one's your favorite?
Oh, man. I am very, very interested to see how Archie Colgan does. I do think the height and reach advantage that Usman has is going to be problematic for him, and I think it's going to be an interesting challenge to see if he can get around that, and whether he really wants to spend a lot of energy wrestling, because that could be a tremendous waste of energy. I don't know. I mean, like, I know there are some fights on the undercard. I'm not exactly sure what's been announced, but you know, I know there are some really good matchups on undercards that are coming up that I'm excited for. To me, right now, all eyes on Dakota.
Yep.
It really, all eyes on Dakota for me. Like, Thad and Shamil Musayev, fascinating, really interested. But I'm less interested because we'll have a belt awarded for that one. Even after Liz has fought this weekend and after Dakota's fought in New York, the belt's still going to be vacant. And I mean, obviously, we don't know what's going to happen with Liz this weekend, but if she's successful, you've got to think this title fight has got to be booked at some point soon. And I mean, I just spoke to Dakota earlier today. She looks like the break has really served her well. She's taken her time, and she's still been training a lot. But I think it's kind of put into perspective where she is and what she's got. And she seems very, very grateful, but very, very motivated to get a hold of the belt. So for me, Dakota being back in competition is the big news.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. Although Thad Gene would probably disagree with me saying that because he feels like he's about to go on a "Y'all Must Have Forgot" tour,
Yeah.
and you kept mentioning his eventual move to 185. He told me he wants to go through and lap the division, clean everybody out, and then he said literally, when I get bored, then I'll go up to 185, and that's got to be music to the ears of the PFL. Here's a guy who was almost out a year, and now he wants every single competitor, every single contender. And he even said, and I want to get your thoughts on this, just because someone has a 2 or a 3 by their name in the rankings doesn't mean if I'm champ, that's who I'm going to fight. I want the guy like Cedric Doumbé or, Patrick Haberor. Like, I'll take on those fights because they're the most intriguing fights. Do you like that mindset from him?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the kind of mindset you want from a champion, someone that is willing to defend the belt against anybody. Like, it's always a bit disappointing when someone gets the belt and they're like, right, okay, now you've got to earn your shot to get in the cage with me. Like, yeah, kind of, but kind of not. Like, we're all earning it by being here and fighting. And it's a stacked division. We have a lot of welterweights coming through. You just mentioned two with Haberor and Cedric Doumbé. Haberor is ranked, obviously, but Doumbé being out of competition for a while, you drop him right back in the rankings when he starts competing again. There's a lot of solid fighters in that weight class and a lot of interesting matchups that could be potentially problematic for Thad. If he can't get the fight going his way, someone like Lazy King, Abdul Abduragimov, if he gets the fight to the floor, anybody in this division, he'll be able to tangle up and strangle. So I like Thad's energy. I like his mentality. And I also think it shows where his confidence is at, because it's not like he's not fighting everything that he's got for every little inch. A lot of it's coming quite easy for him, like 2025 and going through that competition that he did has really, really filled his confidence to the brim. And I think that he's going to look through this division. And if he's able to beat Shamil Musayev, like the only person really above him would be bringing back Kuramagomedov. And I don't know if he would want to fight Thad Gene if Thad's impressive against Musayev. So effectively, Thad could not only win the welterweight title, but he could keep the former champion in retirement if he's able to beat Musayev impressively.
And what a power move that would be. Before we get into why we're here, obviously San Diego, just two more here. I'm so energized by what the PFL has done, and I think it goes to one man outside of yourself, and that's John Martin, the CEO. And just seeing, like, even just because I pick up on the little things, the placement cards at the media day with the Summer Series logo, like all in on everything. And here's a high-level guy who's been a top executive and a very successful executive in the television and media world. His presence here really feels like there's an engine, and it may be just those in-house, but that engine's getting pushed by every single muscle that everyone has here at the company. How big has his presence been from your eyes and really putting together like Summer Series and moving forward?
I think it's been huge, honestly. The first time I reached out to John Martin was in August of last year. He didn't start until September, and I wanted to send him an email because the change in energy in the company since he was coming on board, since everyone knew that he was taking the role, was very different. Like, some people in the industry know who he is, know how much of a powerhouse he is, and they already look at him like he's the guy with the blueprint. He knows how to make things work and make things successful. He'll trim the fat, he'll streamline things, he'll make sure we're going in the right direction. So there was that anticipation when he first got announced that he was taking the job. But then I started to hear from my colleagues who were like going around to his house to shoot with him or, interacting with him in different ways. And every single one of them was like, man, he's just a good dude. Like, he was helping us carry bags, and he's just a genuinely good guy. He's grounded, he's got good experience. So it's like, I feel like he was introduced to the PFL with the right energy. Everyone accepted him like he's the guy. And then, like, since he's been in the role, he's very, very astute. He's very aware. He's watching everything that's going on and paying attention. And I mean, obviously at the moment he's working hard to get the TV deal for 2027 done for us. But I'm expecting him to go into every different area of the company and start to fix things. And he's the man to do it. I really like him.
Yeah, I really believe in his presence here with the company. And last thing before we talk about San Diego, the company announced 18 new fighters coming to the roster. and you look at their records, and they all stand out for one reason or another. I think we're well past the acquisition of Bellator and all those fighters. So now when you look at just what this company has done and now how they're really influencing the next generation of the PFL, how exciting is that for you to have a place that's really the home of the PFL?
Yeah, it is. It is really exciting. The thing with the PFL is it's because it's a bit of an upstart organization. Good. Because it's a bit of an upstart organization. Like some people are like, no, that doesn't feel very safe. Let's stick with the traditional paths. We know where we're going. We know what we want. Then there are other fighters that are like, I kind of like what the PFL are doing. Like Habarora and Boris Atangana, the reason they signed with me was because they like what we're doing with the PFL. Same with Cedric Doumbé is another good example. And like I've just seen all of the media that we got from the 3 European signings that James Steers just landed us. And, you know, guys like Mustafa Ducati, just great signings. And I don't know whether you saw it. Did you see the promo video that Ducati did for his signing?
I did not see it.
It is amazing. It's amazing. And they've used AI to do it, but he's a little kid running through the streets, and there's lots of people saying he's coming. It's really, really cool. These younger generations, not only have they got the marketability on their social media and their ability to talk and fight, but their ability to lean into the new technologies around the sport as well is different.
Yeah, I'm so excited for this next generation. It feels like finally no one is saying, oh, if you go to the PFL, it's because the UFC didn't want you or whatever. It's now PFL has really, in my eyes, and it kind of started for me in my perspective with Thad Gene and Dakota, where there was 2 young fighters. Everyone's like, well, they might be good, but we don't know until they get to the UFC. And then they both have been like, we're good where we're at. You guys can come to us. You guys can come challenge us. And I feel like we're now hitting, I would almost say, I did a real breakdown with Sean O'Connell, your broadcast partner, about the evolution and the chapters and history of the PFL. I feel like now we're at like chapter 5, and that's like installing the next generation. So I'm very excited, and I'm also very excited for San Diego. Huge fights on this card. I know you don't make all the decisions in this company, but would you like to have had a belt on the line for AJ McKee and Isbelayev?
100%. Look, I'll be honest. I'll be straight with you. I would have liked to have had a belt on the line for AJ, and I would have liked to have had someone that's got a similar kind of record and credential in the sport. Like this for me is a very, very risky fight for everybody involved, right? A casual fan looking at this, they're not going to know who Salamat Isbelayev is. They're going to know who AJ McKee is, and they're going to see the difference in the records and assume that 10-0 is just a 10-0 that's a fluff record, and it's not. This is the thing that's worrying me about this fight a little bit, is that a lot of people are they're gonna write off Salamat because they're not really looking into his career. What is he, 29-3 as an amateur? Yeah. He's an absolute assassin. And the way that he ran through Jesus Pinedo in that first round shocked everybody, right? This for me is a lose-lose situation for AJ McKee, right? Because if he beats Isbelayev, nobody knew who Isbelayev was because he's not famous enough yet. But if Isbelayev wins, then AJ McKee's going to take some heat because no one knows how good Isbelayev is, right?
Right.
So it's an awkward fight, to be honest. Like I would have much rather AJ have someone of a similar kind of ilk when it came to reputation in the sport and have the belt on the line. Like I don't like the fact that we've got vacant belts and we've got people fighting in those divisions. Like we've got a vacant bantamweight belt and Sergio's fought already. We could have had Sergio Taylor-Lapalus, But then, like you said, I don't make all the decisions. Right. I would have changed a lot of these things about these main event matches, and I would have had belts on the line much sooner as well. Because a vacant belt sitting there, but a belt that's changing hands has got interest, and really we just need the belts in circulation more than anything.
Right.
AJ McKee is deserving of a title shot. There's no doubt about it, just purely because of his credentials from the Bellator time. But his opponent would need to be a validator as well. And I really think that's the reason why the matchmakers didn't put the belt on the line. But I genuinely think this is a very, very risky fight for AJ McKee. And if I was his management, if I was his team, I would have probably told him not to take it because Salamat Isbelayev is legit. And I don't think people quite understand yet, especially in North America, quite how good this guy is and quite how tough of a test this is for AJ.
We're going to find out this Saturday. And your broadcast partner, Sean O'Connell, told me it's like AJ McKee fighting AJ McKee from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's a scary proposition if you're AJ McKee. Now, somebody else you mentioned earlier, Liz Carmouche, co-main event. We could have the same conversation, right? Like we would like to have seen Dakota and Liz for the belt. but Liz keeps going. And when you talk about all the things we've already discussed today, it just seems like Liz is so comfortable just doing every single thing according to plan. She's not here for, the highlights and whatever. She just wants to keep fighting. And that should make this matchup a little bit more fun.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Liz is one of my highlights every time she's fighting on the card to talk to. I always have a really interesting and enlightening conversation. She's a very, very deep thinker. She really has a good understanding of where she is in the sport and kind of what role she plays and what role she still has to play in the sport. But also, she's taking on opponents, whoever they put in front of her. She doesn't really care. She's more interested in her own output and her own legacy. Like, she keeps talking about this bucket list of finishes that she wants. She wants a clean body shot knockout. She wants to knock somebody out cold. She wants to choke somebody unconscious so they're fast asleep. And then she keeps talking about this special submission that she's got. She won't tell me what it is. She won't tell me what it's called. She won't tell me where she's going to hit it from. But she's like, if I hit this submission, you'll know that that's the one. So it's like she's finding other ways to motivate herself at this point in her career. And of course, she's fighting tough opponents. But everybody that steps in there to fight Liz Carmouche, they're fighting Liz Carmouche. And that changes them as a fighter, right? Like, every time someone steps in there to fight Liz, they look across the cage and realize how much of a problem they've got to deal with. And it changes the way that they approach her. So, Liz is still evolving as a fighter and still working on things to force people into the fight that she wants them to have. And, just a really, really interesting person. And her time in the military as well, it really it helped to kind of organize her way of living. So everything is systematic now, Like, she already listed out to me earlier today all of the places that she's going to eat after the fight.
Yep,
right?
I've heard that from her as well.
Everything's organized.
It's so great.
I
had a chance to be at Camp Pendleton with her yesterday when she was
Right.
speaking to the Marines, and just being on the bus with her to the event. The way she just talks about her day to day, from training to how she approaches every single thing, I was just like, not from here, not from this planet.
Crazy.
That is a world champion through and through, not just with a belt, but just in life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I absolutely love her presence on this card. I love that she's back in San Diego. I really do appreciate the PFL buying into that side. I think since John has been on board, it's been something that we've really seen. Who are our stars? And let's take them home.
Yeah.
And then that's a massive thing. And you look at this card, AJ right down the street, right? And then someone we were both talking to earlier today, Jena Bishop, literally right down the street, right here in San Diego, moved to San Diego because of the BJJ scene that's here and just how high quality, and we know how good she is on the ground. The only question I have on her fight, she told me she loves the fact that everyone in the top 10 is afraid to go to the ground with her. And she said, you should be. When you have someone who's so good on the ground like Jena Bishop is, how does that from like an opponent perspective? And she's like on Ariane Lipski da Silva. When you look at this matchup, I don't necessarily want to speak for any opponent, but they do have to have that in the back of the mind. Like, I'm at an extreme disadvantage if this fight goes to the ground.
Absolutely, they are, and that change is kind of similar to what I was saying about Liz. It changes the way that the opponent approaches them, right? Like, if you think about this fight on paper, right? Jena Bishop has got the advantage on the ground. I would say that Ariane's got the advantage on the feet, right? But the way that she fights on the feet is going to be negatively influenced by the fear of what could happen if she hits the ground. Now, Lipski da Silva is going to feel very much like she can defend takedowns, she can scramble out of submissions, but there is a different level to what Jena Bishop can do. And there has to be a real concern if the fight hits the floor that Ariane is going to be out of her depth, right? So that's going to change the way that she'll approach her striking. She'll want to be long range with her punches. She won't want to be kicking to the body because it might get tangled up. She won't want to be using her clinch work with her elbows and knees because, she could potentially get tangled up, tripped, and find herself on the floor. On the other side, though, and funnily enough, I was thinking about this yesterday. I was doing some editing with the Johnny Eblen-Kasanganay fight coming up. And what was really interesting about that is that the first thing that Johnny Eblen did is he opened up with kicks. And I thought to myself, that's a really smart thing to do because there's no risk. Imper's not going to catch a kick and take you down. So Jenna's in that same situation. Mm-hmm. She can kick with reckless abandon because Ariane is not going to take her down. It would be a foolish thing to do. But the other thing as well that it does is it creates this barrier between us because my legs are so long. So now if I'm Imper Kasanganay, I've got to get close enough to Johnny Eblen to punch him, but not so close that he can grab a hold of me.
Right.
right?
Right.
So if you're Jena Bishop, you can throw big, long, wide punches because if they try and get inside, they're in your range.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, the confidence that we've seen from Jena Bishop striking is because she's so good on the ground. You know,
Yeah.
the confidence of Chuck Liddell's striking was because his takedown offense was so good,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
BJ Penn could just walk you down and just jab and punch your face off because if you take him down, he's going to strangle you. Same with the Diaz brothers. She has that advantage in this fight where you don't want to touch the hot lava, so you're going to have to strike with me a little bit, and then she can set up her takedowns on her own time, and also have her striking underestimated as well.
And then we're talking about two flyweight contenders, and while we're focused on Liz and Dakota, you never know what happens. And I think the winner of this one should kind of be, I won't say a dark horse, but you kind of just got to peek around the corner and be like, don't look too far back, because the winner of this one, I think, really sets themselves up for a nice spot moving forward in the division. Now, very quickly, before I get you out of here, a couple other fights on the card, Alfie Davis and Shabli. I mean, that is going to be, Alfie's told me that he feels like Shabli's the best guy in the division outside of Usman. So this fight for him, he's excited for that challenge. But Dan, I got to tell you, I know I'm going to ask you the prototypical question I always ask you. But for me, Abraham Badley coming over and Rob Wilkinson, what I'm sure you get the same energy from AB, but I almost felt like I was disrespecting him by taking away his energy from our interview that we did 2 weeks ago, and the passion in which he talks about going to 205, envisioning himself with the belt. He respects Rob, but he would be fluffing if he said, I'm going to be this, and then I go out and have a poor performance. I think AB's arrival in the States at 205, this is one of my favorite fights on the card.
I agree with you. Look, I saw him yesterday in the lobby, and I literally said to him, bro, you look like a different person. he's like, and you know how he is. He's got that kind of, he's like, yeah, you'll see, bro, you'll see. Like, he's a powerhouse anyway. You know, his advantage at heavyweight is that he was faster than everybody, right? But I still think he's going to be faster than the majority of light heavyweights anyway. And I also think that his punching power is the leveler, right? It changes the game when he touches somebody. And because he's a little bit shorter, because he has that wide base, he's able to generate power from both sides. So no matter what hand he's hitting you with, it's going to really, really hurt. And like Rob Wilkinson's a very, very aggressive person, likes to close people down quickly, but likes to fight at close range. He's got good elbows and knees himself, and that puts him right in the punching range for Badley. It would almost be smart for Wilkinson to try and fight Badley a bit long, but then I think Abraham Badley's got the horsepower to get inside pretty quickly and do damage. It's a really, really interesting fight. I mean, obviously Wilkinson's the veteran in the division, but Badley could be a real upsetter in the light heavyweights for sure.
And I just want a microphone on him. That's all I want. Like, he's so entertaining. And I know where we're going with this one, but as always, what is the fight you're most looking forward to that not only we didn't just talk about, that most people are overlooking on this card?
Okay, well, our first fight of the card. So we have two guys fighting. 3-0, Kobe Fair, trains at Extreme Couture in Vegas. I was watching him put it on people the other week at the Performance Institute, and his neck attacks are ridiculous. Like, and he doesn't even have a favorite. He knows how to compress the neck in so many different directions. He was an NCAA wrestler. He's got really, really heavy hands for a bantamweight. I've held pads for him a little bit. Naturally powerful, naturally aggressive, full self-belief that he is going to be the next best thing, and you've just kind of got to get on board right now. On the other side, though, he's fighting someone that trains with AJ McKee, Dan Bizdigian. And this guy, so he was 3-0 as an amateur. His coaches wanted him to turn professional for this opportunity here, but it is a real tough test for him. I mean, you know, Kobe's got really, really strong wrestling. But what I will say is the confidence that Daniel's got from training with AJ McKee, from not being too far away. And the other thing as well is like because his opponent's such a good wrestler, Daniel doesn't really have to think about where the fight's going to go, because he's a good striker, he's a long-range striker, but he's also got a really, really good guillotine. So Bizdigian almost feels like he's got this fight won in both ranges, and Fair has got to decide which poison he wants to pick. That's kind of the feeling I'm getting off Bizdigian. Cody Fair is just a maniac. He's every day in the gym. There's an intensity to him. He's marching around the cage. He's talking to himself in his head. And then when he spars, he's like a spider monkey. That's the fight to watch. First fight of the night: Kobe Fair against Dan Bizdigian.
So either get to the Vichenga Arena right away or turn on ESPN2 immediately. Dan, very quickly before I get you out of here, you mentioned the road trip. You're going to get tattoos. Where on the I mean, do you have room on the canvas?
I have some space. Well, so I'll give my friends a shout out because right next to our hotel in Charlotte, there's Made to Last Tattoo, and they're good friends of mine, the guys that own that shop, Chris Stewart and Matt Skinney. And they've both tattooed me, and they are actually the only two people in the world that have tattoos done by me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they've both got a pair of boxing gloves on their leg by me. So I'm planning on going to see both of those guys again. I've not told them this yet, so if you see the interview before, just keep some time in your schedule for me. But they are experts at what they do. Their skills are through the roof, and they just get better all the time. So I've got some space on my legs for them to fill. I might get something on one of my knees. I quite like a bit of a piece to fill this ripped space here. And then I have a tiger that's been on this leg for a decade that needs finishing. And I think I might get these two guys to work on it to get it finished. Because the guy that started it moved to Hawaii, and that just makes the whole thing way too expensive.
Right.
So
I've got plenty of room if you're ever looking to tattoo a media guy. I mean, let's talk about content, right?
There we go.
I don't know that anyone in my family would appreciate if I got a PFL tattoo, but boxing gloves or MMA gloves, like I don't want to steal someone else's stuff, but I would be down for that. Maybe I'd have to join you guys in Charlotte because that would be a hell of a little social media post content idea. I absolutely love it. What's your favorite part, before I get you out of here, about San Diego?
Oh man, I mean, just for me, it's just the climate. It's just I love being so close to the sea, but I also love to be just a little bit inland because you get that, you know, the marine layer brings all the moisture inland, and you get really beautiful plant life all up and down California. Southern California is one of my favorite places in the world. I used to live in Los Angeles, PCH. I could drive up Pacific Coast Highway every day of my life. There's just something special about California, and my memories of coming to San Diego was always going to the military bases, doing autograph signings and doing seminars, and just a good energy from the military base over here. So I think we're gonna have a very special event this weekend, and I just love California, so it's always good to be here.
I think we got to get road tripping with Dan Hardy going as well with the PFL. I think, listen, the more we talk, the more content ideas that come out of it, and I'm here for it. I want to be in the good graces of Dan Hardy forever, so I must ask you about Veronica and how everything's going with her training.
She's looking really, really good. She's actually, I just read the message before we sat down to do this. Today was sparring day, and she just put done, and I got another message from one of her coaches just to say she looked amazing. So I know she's had a good sparring day. We've had a really solid couple of weeks in Vegas. Before that, we were at GB Top Team. We had a really solid couple of weeks there as well. And she's leveled up. I mean, she was leveling up previously. She's realized now she's leveled up. That's a scary thing, because now she knows that what she's doing is effective and it's working. So now she's believing in it more. And like, we're seeing people hit the deck left and right from stuff that she's landing. So I'm very, very excited for her. And the girls that are out in Vegas as well, you know, Piera Rodriguez and Tatiana Suarez and, you know, Rachel Cummins, Haley Cohen. She's got a good group of girls around her, and they've got a real tight working relationship. And then obviously with myself holding pads, and then we've got Ryan Diaz as well, who's based up in Vancouver. He's come down. So we've got a really nice little team around her. It's a big pressure fight. You know, it's a tough opponent, Dione Barbosa, but these are the kind of opponents that bring the best out of her.
Yeah,
you know? So
absolutely.
I'm expecting a really exciting night for her and a good performance.
I'm expecting an exciting summer. It all starts June 27th. Dan, you were so gracious with your time as always. Thank you very much. Very happy to do this in person.
Appreciate it.
PFL San Diego live from the Pechanga Arena, June 27th. It kicks off the summer series. For Dan Hardy, I'm Mike Pendleton. Thank you very much.
This is the PFL Preview Show.